Hey everyone, and welcome to the PlantStock channel. If we haven't met yet, my name is Jesse, and yes, we have another one of these videos. I thought I would just make a simple video today, more of a comment to a bunch of comments I've seen on the channel now for almost a year when it comes to Beyond Meat, but also now Oatly, since they IPO'd in May. And it has to do with people talking about that Oatly doesn't really have a moat, and that there are a lot of other options to choose from, a lot of other oat alternatives that are way cheaper, half price and so on in your respective countries. So that means that Oatly doesn't have a moat, and same to some extent with what I've heard over the years regarding Beyond Meat, that there are way cheaper alternatives out there, and that's why they're not going to do really well long term. So I kind of felt that I wanted to respond to that. And guys, as always, before I do that, I would surely appreciate an early thumbs up to help spread the video to more people out there. If you want to join the channel, you are interested in Beyond Meat, Oatly, Tattoo Chef, the very good food company to name a few, make sure to subscribe and don't forget that bell button. And if you want to join our interesting free Discord channel, the PlantStock community, where we talk about these companies, make sure to take a look down in the description and we can talk more about it. It's a great community. All right, guys, thanks. So when it comes to Oatly, the whole idea that they don't have a moat and there's so many cheaper alternatives out there. And this is true. There are a lot of cheaper alternatives when it comes to oat milk, right? And a lot of people normally say, well, you can do it at home. Well, there are a lot of things you can do at home, right? So, I mean, you can also do plant-based burgers at home, just making lentils or beans and, put it together. Doesn't mean it's going to be the same sensation. I do that all the time. When I want some healthy, whole food, plant-based burgers, I'll do it myself. But it's the difference when you're looking for that genuine thing, right? Now, me personally, I come from the land of Oatly, right? This is where it originated from in like 27 years ago. So, and I actually live quite close to the Oatly factory, the headquarters. So it's about, 20, 30 miles to drive. So very close. And I've obviously experienced Oatly here for years and years. And I got to tell you, in Sweden, we've for the longest time had a lot of plant-based options, especially dairy alternatives. And we have cheap ones today too, a lot of different cheap ones. And yet, Oatly is by far the most famous plant-based dairy alternative in Sweden. They have over 50% of the market. And it's just been growing more and more over the years, no matter how many other cheaper versions there are. And then we have Great Britain. We know, my understanding is that they are among the most famous, if not the most famous plant-based dairy alternative when it comes to milks and yogurts, right, in the UK. And the UK is the largest plant-based food country in Europe, right? There's where it's most popular when it comes to plant-based living. So again, when they moved into Great Britain, they conquered it, right? When they went into Germany, which is also really big when it comes to plant-based food, and they have a lot of alternatives like the UK as well, but they conquered it. That tells you something, right? And it's the same thing with Beyond Meat, right? The arguments I hear about that there's a lot cheaper versions out in Europe, half the price, and they taste okay or good or whatever. Same with the US. There's been a lot of alternatives in the US for a lot of years too. Yet Beyond Meat is by far the most preferred plant-based option, the plant-based burger, right? There's no others that compete with that as of yet. Yes, Impossible Foods might do that with time, but right now there really isn't any bigger ones. And when it comes to the business of what is a moat, well, there's a lot of different definitions, and we're going to talk about that in a future video. But one of the definitions normally, or one of the way you can look at what a moat is the branding, right? If it's the number one brand, if it's the brand people will remember, we definitely know that they're the number one brand in the US, and they're one of the most famous, or the most famous brand on an international scale. We're talking about Beyond Meat now, right? So that gives you a moat to some extent, right? And also the 200 researchers they have focusing on the product, perfecting it all the time, making it as equal to the real thing. Whatever cheaper versions, if there is out there, they're not equal to what kind of product that Beyond Meat actually tries to mimic. And that's something to really keep in mind. And again, it's in the numbers, right? And really, it's the same thing with Oatly to some extent. They might not have as a big of a moat as Beyond Meat, but they do put a lot of effort and research into perfecting their milk alternatives, right? And their yogurts. And I must say, since I had several different dairy alternatives here in Sweden for years, I've tried several of them. And even almond milk, cashew nut milk. And I must say, by far, I think Oatly is the best when it comes to taste-wise, when it comes to their milks. It's extremely good. I mean, flavor-wise. Now, I don't drink it too often because they have oil in it. And oil for me is not a whole foods-based product, right? And actually, I think they have a product that doesn't contain oil. I think it's canola oil, right? And it's the better alternative if you compare it to a lot of processed oils. I mean, all oils to some extent are processed, right? But I normally choose to drink soy milk from Alpro. But when it comes to flavor, there's no going close to the ordinary milk alternatives there. And also when it comes to their barista milk, it's amazing. Basically in the whole country, all our cafes, thousands of them, have their barista version when people want the vegan or plant-based option. And we know this is true for a lot of countries as well. So again, so they are perfecting the flavor, and has to do with their Moat as a brand there too. So even though you have to pay in Sweden and the UK and Germany maybe double the price when it comes to some options, it's about the branding, right? And the quality of the product. So let's not forget about that. And you might have heard of a little company called the Coca Cola company. Warren Buffett has certainly heard of it. And for years in Sweden, and I imagine in the US and several other countries, there's been a lot of different colas out there, right? A lot. I'm not talking about PepsiCo, but it's the same thing with PepsiCo, right? These are the two most famous ones when it comes to colas. And Coca Cola is by far, my understanding when it comes to drinking soda, right, is the favorite one. And even though there's been a lot of cheaper versions of colas, we still have it a couple today in Sweden. You used to have way more over before in the early days, but we still have some today. Something called Cuba Cola. Not sure if you have that where you're at. And comparing that to Coca Cola, it's half price. It's disgusting. And we even have cheaper products. It's not great. So if you want a cola sensation, you're gonna go to Coca Cola, right? It's the same with Oatly. If you want that real great taste, you'll go to Oatly. If you prefer a plant-based version, right? You might not want to be a vegan, and that's the great thing about Oatly, that probably most people they're not vegan. Same with Beyond Meat, right? But they choose to, either they can't handle dairy, or they want to just cut down for health reasons and sustainability, and they're going to choose Oatly. So that is something to keep in mind, right? Because again, there's always going to be people who don't want the pure thing, who want the cheaper thing, it could be a financial situation, you just don't have the money, or you just want to save money and you prefer paying less, and that's okay. So there's a market for them too, and that's why we have all these cheaper versions, right? These private label versions. But it's not the same thing for the majority of people. So I totally feel that it's fine that everybody who comments on my channel or other channel state that they don't really have a Moat, Oatly or Beyond Meat, because there's cheaper versions, half price, and that's why people are going to buy them instead. It doesn't add up when it comes to branding, right? Because branding is everything, and to some extent that could be some kind of moat, right? If you're the first movers or the largest movers, the one that everyone knows about, and the quality, you can't compare Coca Cola, the flavor of it, compared to a Cuba Cola or whatever private brand there is out there. you can't compare them. I mean, disagree or agree, let me know down in the comments. And same thing with Oatly. Drinking a cheaper version, the ones I've tried, and that's been several here in Sweden, they don't come close to the kind of sensation I get when I drink an Oatly milk, when I actually just drink it for pleasure, right? Because before I went vegan about 10 years ago, I used to love drinking milk. I would drink it like this when I came home from work. I just loved it, the sensation. And the closest one to that, for me, that's Oatly. And that's not just me talking about it, because as we know already it's the #1 brand in several countries. And they have the scalability. They're building up more and more facilities. So I don't really see them being threatened in the years ahead. And the same thing is definitely true with Beyond Meat, right? When it comes to scalability, there are no other companies that can really compete with the kind of facilities they have and the kind of product they have. Because again, McDonald's, PepsiCo, and the Yum brands, they're not asking the other companies to make deals with them, right? Not at such large scales. Not with Tyson Foods, plant-based versions, not with Conagra's plant-based versions or Kellogg's. It's about Beyond Meat. And the same is true with Oatly. Sorry for jumping forward and back there. Not only the camera, but Oatly, I mean, they have about a total, I think, about 60,000 or 70,000 coffee places around the world. So that tells you something also, that they're not choosing the cheaper brands. Something to keep in mind. So guys, sorry for ranting. I just felt that it needed to be said, and it's okay to not agree with me. Please let me know. I'm interested to hear your opinions. Agree or disagree is totally fine. Let's keep a good debate here, right? And I totally respect that you don't share my opinion. And that's how we all learn and grow as investors. So it's important to keep it real, right? All right, folks, that was it for today. I truly hope you got a lot of value from today's video. And if you did, smash that like button, right? And if you want to be part of this channel and get more information regarding Oatly, Beyond Meat, Tattoo Chef, the Very Good Food Company, to name a few, make sure to subscribe and don't forget the bell button. And be part of our awesome PlantStock community Discord channel. It's free right now. Take a look down in the description. Thank you, folks. And remember, this is not financial advice. It's important to do your own due diligence and invest safe. Hope to see you soon, and peace out.